Marine fisheries management in North Carolina is a real conundrum. On the one hand, you have the Division of Marine Fisheries, which is the state agency that has the biologists and the researchers and the technicians that provide the data for management. And North Carolina is known nationally to have some of the best data in the country. Recreationally, we spend extra money to estimate the number of trips and what recreational fishermen catch. In fact, when the National Marine Fisheries Service decided to revamp the system that they use to estimate recreational harvest, they wanted to run it side by side with current programs to make sure it was compatible and it would be a seamless transition. The two programs they chose were Louisiana and North Carolina because we have some of the best data in the country. Commercially, we have a trip ticket system. I think we were one of the first ones to use that commercially, so we know what's caught commercially by and large. Got an excellent program to monitor and track that. We can track quotas. It's really a model system for marine fisheries data. And it's funded by our license dollars, general fund appropriations, and some federal monies. So that is very good. North Carolina is well known. Yet on the other hand, we have a Marine Fisheries Commission that's 9 members appointed by the governor that from a recreational point of view, or even a conservationist point of view, has been a disaster for the last 20 years. Instead of making long-term resource decisions that are for the betterment of the marine fishery, they tend to make very short-sighted, short-term decisions that benefit a very few. One of the best examples of that this past winter was the striped bass kills we had off of North Carolina. The commercial fishery has a TAC of, I think, of 480,000 pounds, and the gillnet fishery and the beach seine fishery and the trawl fishery each get 160,000 pounds of that. The trawl fishery especially, it just doesn't make any sense. A trawl net is dragged across the ocean floor behind a boat or in the water behind a boat, and it can catch lots and lots of fish, hundreds if not thousands of fish. Yet in the way we manage this fishery, we allow them to have 50 fish a day. They just changed that to 2,000 pounds. Well, a couple of trawl boats could catch the whole quota in a day or two if they wanted to. So it makes no sense to have this kind of fishing power out there amongst these schooling fish that are so valuable. Yet that's the decision that the Marine Fisheries Commission has made, and even after the fish kills, they decided to continue it. So you've got this gear out there that can catch and kill lots of fish, and yet they can only keep 50 or 2,000 pounds. That's not right, and that's not the way the fishery ought to be managed. Recreationally, those fish in the water are far more valuable than they are dead on the dock once commercially, and that's true of all recreational fisheries. Recreational fisheries need to be managed for abundance. So you get a chance to go out and you think you got a chance to catch a fish. I mean, if you were fishing in a farm pond that you knew had no fish, you wouldn't go fishing in there. Or if you caught very few fish. But if you go fishing and encounter some fish, you see some, you might hook up a few times, you'll keep going back for more. And that's the economic power of the recreational fishery. Whereas a commercial fishery is managed for yield. And the best way to explain that is you fish it down so the fish start reproducing better and you can crop more pounds out of it, but you don't get a lot of older fish and it's not as an abundant a fishery. The best example in the upland world is between management for a pine forest or an old oak hickory forest. What the commercial loggers want is a pine forest because it grows very quickly, produces lots of wood, and you can harvest it very quickly every 20 or so years. They look at an oak hickory forest like what's sitting behind me, or a swamp forest like this, as dead wood. But it's what recreational fishermen want. The trees are abundant, there's some old trees, and it makes for a much more diverse system. It's actually a better system. And the value recreationally is there for abundant fish. Those two kinds of management, yield management and abundance management, are not compatible. In a study in Virginia, Dr. Jim Kirkley from Virginia Marine Institute looked at the relative economic value of commercial and recreational fishing for striped bass. And what he found was very noteworthy. He determined that the commercial fishery in Virginia would have to sell their fish for $27 a pound to equal the value of the recreational fishery. Those fish are far more valuable in the water than they ever are dead on the dock. And that's the kind of management for some fish that we ought to see in North Carolina. North Carolina, if we manage correctly, could have one of the best saltwater fisheries in the country. We've got Pamlico Sound, Albemarle Sound, Core Sound, all the southern marshes, large marsh areas in the northern part, the Outer Banks. We've just got great habitat to grow a lot of fish if we had a management system in place that would allow us to capitalize on it. In the past, we've capitalized on a few people catching fish. What we need to do now is create tourism jobs and recreational fishing jobs and grow the value of our fishery to the state. North Carolina Marine Fisheries Management needs to make decisions that are in the long-term best interest of the fishery resource. That's not what they've done in the past. We have a system that's broken. It has not looked at the long-term health of the fishery, the long-term abundance, or the recreational fishery. It's tended to look at trying to make an advantage for a very, very few people. The way to fix this, we believe, will be legislatively, and that's why we're sending this message to you.